This conference will
First
now
piece of
be
old,
recorded.
okay, first piece of old business is EPC 2020. Megan Thornton and Eric Romer, 49 Birch Road, proposing a temporary stream crossing for construction and utilities in a pool house and patio construction in an upland review area. This site is shown on Assessor's Map number 11 as lot number 11. Public hearing was closed last meeting, November 4. So everybody has a copy of Rich's revised. Did you include, Rich, what I called you about the?
I made the change, but no, it hasn't.
Okay, fine. Good. Why don't you just read that change, because that's a significant, that's more than a typo.
It's on the second condition now reads the stormwater detention measures for patios constructed on the east side of the brook shall be installed by June 30, 2021, and before the issuance of zoning approvals for building.
So I want to make sure everybody knew about that before we.
Did I hear me?
Did you guys hear Rich? Jim?
Yes, Eric.
Did you hear Rich?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear Rich read that sentence?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Bill, you heard it too? Okay, good. Okay. There were a couple of other minor typos,
I have typos and other things.
but that was the only one that was so with that, Jim, can I have a motion to approve EPC 20-2020?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve EPC 20-2020 as proposed.
Susan, can I have a second?
I second the motion.
Great. Without objection, then I'd like that to be approved. No objection. Good. Moving on to the next item of business, it's EPC 26-2020. David and Carolyn Marin, 7 Nolan Lane, proposing generator installation in a regulated area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 8 as lot number 35. People have that one, and
I have pages and I have typos.
okay. So Jim, thank you very much for your paying attention in English class. Anybody else have anything for Rich? Okay, Jim, may I have a motion to approve 26-2020?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve EPC 26-2020 as proposed.
Susan, may I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, without objection, that's approved. Moving to the next item of business. Next item of business is EPC 28-2020. Felix F. Caleri, Inc., 140 Ledge Road, proposing a modification of a stormwater detention basin within a regulated wetland and construction activities related to a new building in an upland review area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 39 as lot number 21E and 22. The members have a draft of the conditional approval. I think that
I have it.
so you have, but anything
No, nothing.
okay, you have typos and stuff like that. Okay, does anybody else have any comments that would like to modify this conditional approval? No? Okay. Jim, then may I have a motion to approve EPC 28-2020 for to approve the draft?
Yes, Eric, I'm pleased to make a motion to the commission to for having us approve EPC 28-2020 as proposed.
Okay, Susan, may I have a second?
I second the motion.
Great, thank you. And without objection, then we'll approve this. Okay. Next item of business is new business, EPC 32-2020. Ellen Panagayas, 26 Parsons Walk, proposing a replacement house and related construction activities in an upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 20 as lot number 31. Since it's a replacement house, probably a public hearing on this one, Rich?
Yeah, I think.
Is there somebody here to represent the applicant?
Yes, I am.
Oh, Jacek,
Yes.
please, you want to give us a 5-minute,
Review?
a
Sure.
5-minute spiel? Okay, thank you.
Can I get the screen? Fred?
One moment, Jacek.
Okay, thank you. Or I'll just grab it myself. I think I can.
You're the new presenter.
Okay. Can everybody see the screen?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll give you an overview. Here is the site. It's at the end of the cul-de-sac at Parsons Walk. And here is the existing house. This is where the house is. There is an existing pool and a pool house, which is about here, which we're going to keep. The wetlands are mainly here and also here. Here is the view of the site and proposed house. It's basically a replacement house. I'll show you this actually shows it better. So here are this is the edge of the wetlands, and here are the edge of the wetlands. With the offset, the 50-foot mark, this only leaves this area here, which is outside of the upland review area. So our house, our proposed construction, is mainly where the existing house is now. This is the existing house right here, kind of meandering like that. And our proposed house is just in the same vicinity. As you can sort of see it here, smaller footprint, smaller driveway. There is a asphalt driveway here, which we're going to take out. We are going to keep the pool and the pool house. The drainage area for the proposed new house is going to be here in front of the house, and then behind, you can see it here and here. This is the proposed drainage. And in terms of mitigation, we'll have, well, we have Alex, who's actually here in case you have any questions for her. But there is a report that I'm going to submit. This is the mitigation plan in terms of plantings. Some plantings here in the front, here on the edge of the wetlands, and a little bit here and a little bit here. This shows also a few pictures here on the site where the wetlands are. You can kind of see that this is not really much grass. There's mainly grass here in the front of the house. This is the existing house right there. And some of this here on the side. And again, I'll have Alex at the hearing go over her report. The drainage design here was done by Wayne Davanzo, who's not here tonight, but he's going to be present at the hearing next, I guess it's going to be in January. I don't know if you have any comments or questions. I'll be happy to spend more time. I was trying to be very, very brief.
Sure. During the meeting in January, you'll have run perk tests?
Well, the perk tests have been already done.
Okay.
There is a, because the design, you can actually see it. Here are the design holes, here, here. Mm-hmm. And I have the results on another sheet. I can bring that up. Right here. Test hole 1, as you can see, the groundwater is pretty high at 11 inches. Mottling is at 11 inches. in both cases. So it's not the best site, but we sort of knew that. And it's obviously going to be an improvement over what's already there with what we're proposing, a smaller footprint, less pervious surface, and some mitigation, and obviously a proper drainage. I mean, right now the house just empties waters right onto the lawn, which you kind of see on some of these pictures.
Yep.
What's happening there. So that's basically where we are right now, and we can spend more time on this when we come back in January.
Okay, because my question in general will be basement. Okay,
Yes.
how deep is the basement? What do you do? Some pumps, the whole thing. So you don't have to answer it tonight, but that'll be guaranteed. I'll be asking that.
Yes, no, I understand. And we've been preparing the owner for that possibility. Obviously, they would like to have a full basement. I have been advising that, perhaps we should think about it. We have to go, by code, the 42-inch below frost line, which will put the footings about 4 feet down below the grade, the bottom of the footing. And so, very often it becomes a question of what do we do with the crawl space? Like, crawl spaces are not energy efficient. If possible, it's the best practice not to have crawl spaces, unless we can. Slab on grade is something that we don't really do around here. So it's either a basement, a full basement, or a crawl space is the option. And so, yeah, we're still thinking about it, and obviously would like to come to some kind of a solution, other than, we kind of dig and we see what happens, because the existing house has to come out. There is a basement there, and so there's going to be a hole in the ground that's already created by the existing house. And so by the time we dig it all out, we'll have a better understanding what's going on there. And we're sort of hoping to make the decision literally last minute. But I understand that for review process, you would like to know exactly what we're planning to do. And so right now it's kind of left open, as in, we are not removing the house yet. There's going to probably happen, but not before the hearing. So I think we'll just come back with some kind of a plan.
Okay, no, just the question would be going to whether you build what I call it the bathtub of basements.
Right.
A bathtub in the basement, which is one alternative. Or whether you have 3 sump pumps that work 24/7, go 7/24.
24/7, right? Yep.
We know there because you're substantially below the water line there, and what happens to that water, et cetera, et cetera. So that'll be my line of questions in January. But anyway, no need to answer it now. So
right, I understand. It's like I said, we're wondering why there is no water in the basement, but it's sometimes it just sort of happens. And yes, we've done these bathtub basements, and one leaked, and then we had a problem because there were no pumps. So anyway, yeah, it's something definitely we need to address.
Okay, I'd like to
Hey,
open up
Jacek, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
to the members of the commission. Did somebody have a question?
Mike, I got a quick question, Jacek.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Pier and beam seems to be pretty popular. Is there a reason why you're not considering that?
You mean like a rain garden?
No, pier and beam slab foundation.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Well, a slab on grade, it's not well. So energy code, right? So you have to really insulate under the slab and then on the inside of the walls. And anytime you do that, it's also all the mechanical. So if we do a slab on grade with proper insulation, which is quite difficult. I mean, there are special systems that sort of make it easier. And I've done a project where we actually had radiant heat under the slab, but it gets very, very expensive and very quickly. And so because of mechanicals, the best way to heat is from the floor. And so running some ducts in the crawl space or below the house is probably the easiest thing to do. Plumbing, electrical. I mean, yes, I know we can design all of that, come from the top. And if I were in Florida, I wouldn't think much about it. But I think in our climate, it's just not very common practice. But no, I understand. Yeah, I know, it's doable. It can be done. I think from the two evils.
The reason
Yeah.
why the reason why I was asking is because I know a gentleman who's building a very large home on the water in Old Greenwich, and practically most of the home is slab on grade. I know they had
Right.
wetlands. It's definitely energy focused construction. You piqued my interest, so I asked the question. Certainly you could have a portion of this house that has full foundation, and other portions of the house that aren't full foundation that mitigate our chairman's concern about sump pumps running 24/7.
Right.
And still have a location to park the mechanicals, which would potentially mitigate building a house of equal size in the upland review area. So maybe that's something you would consider.
Well, definitely. I think on the water, you also have tidal forces to think about. So the water might, go up and down, and definitely, if anything, doing a slab on grade be a better choice here. I don't think we have that problem. But yeah, doing maybe a partial basement, doing some crawl space or combination of. There's definitely going to be slab on grade on the garage. So then it's just a small portion. And as far as mechanicals, I don't know if you recall, but we did a house, actually we do two houses on Holly Lane, number 44 and number 10. And number 10 was actually within the floodplain. And we ended up going with a crawl space and floodgates. And we put all the mechanicals up in the attic on the 3rd floor. And that actually worked out very well. And with today's technology, with gas-fired boilers, which are very quiet, it was an easy thing to do. And I think I would actually consider that in this house, just because if any of these pumps fail or something happens, I think the mechanical should be way up there rather than down in the basement. The basement be only for storage, most likely. I don't think we even would consider finishing it off.
Yeah, I was just throwing that out there. I think it's interesting that people are doing some pretty cool stuff. Still being able to, not to bore the commission with energy construction, but the amount of insulation you can stick in the ground before you pour the slab, and then the amount of insulation you can stick on top of that, and the average user wouldn't know the difference.
Right.
Just throwing that out there. Anyways.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, and do we need a motion to go to public hearing? Okay, Jim, I would like a motion. Would you please propose a motion for move EPC 32/2020 for a public hearing?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion for what's before us on EPC 32-2020 to move to a public hearing for our next meeting.
Thank you. Susan, may I have a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Without objection, I'll assume it's approved. So we'll see you next month, Jessica.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next, we'll move on to the public hearing section of our agenda. First item of business is EPC 27-2020, William and Tara Worm, 17 Mystic Lane, proposing swimming pool and patio construction in a regulated area and upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 18 as lot number 62. Okay, is there somebody here to represent the applicant?
Good evening,
Mr.
EPC.
Walters. Please.
Good evening, EPC. Thank you for your time. Sean Walters, landscape architect for Wagner Pools. We have a small pool project located at this address, and due to setback constraints, a pool in the rear yard is not possible. No variance could be granted because there is no hardship inherent in the land. What you're looking at here is a survey of the property provided by William Seymour. At our last meeting, one of the board members had a question about the location of the project relevant to the brook. So the brook is down here at the bottom of the drawing, just so you know, and the pool is this blue rectangle. Approximate location of the pool is this blue rectangle up here on the side of the house. As you know, the pool will be situated within the 50-foot upland review area, and part of what we're proposing will overlap or encroach into the wetlands themselves. So what I would like to do is call your attention. You guys can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to these two diagrams. This is LA1 or LA100, and this is drawings 2 and 3, and they show both existing and proposed coverage types and areas respectively. Drawing 2 showing the existing wetland coverage diagram, and what I'm basically doing is showing that within the boundary of proposed work to be performed, we have roughly 87% coverage of unfavorable existing features, such as either planted lawn, and by the way, this revision cloud outline here is the planted lawn, the existing planted lawn, which was also planted, as far as we know, when the house was built prior to today's regulations. So this area is and always has been planted lawn relative to the age of the structure. So 87% of the work that we're proposing within the boundary of work, 87% of existing coverage is either planted lawn or invasive species. I understand that the board members had an opportunity to go out and see the flagged location of the pool, wherein you hopefully were able to observe that some of the flagging was not possible up in this area here because we had some existing multiflora rose shrubs, a fairly robust stand of them. And of course, we're proposing to rip those out and the planted lawn and replace it with the pool. So with regard to proposed increase of disturbed area within the wetland that's not currently covered in unfavorable things like planted lawn and invasive vegetation, we're only proposing roughly 13% or 119 square feet of additional coverage within that boundary of work. Now, in order to offset that, we're proposing a mitigation planting area that is in excess of 16 times that proposed increase. And I hope that makes sense. My attempt here was to make this simple. But what I'm basically saying is that, yes, we're proposing a little bit of area within the wetlands, but most of that area is occupied by unfavorable existing conditions, planting lawn and invasive vegetation. So the pool itself, here's our demolition plan, by the way, which also is contains work items. We're going to be removing all of this, eradicating to the extent possible all of this existing vegetation. Have a nice erosion control plan, so on and so forth. I'd also like to note or mention, I'm going to skip ahead to the fencing plan. The owners have advised that there's a wildlife corridor on this end of their property, and they did not want to bring the fence all the way to the property line. They want to leave it in 10 feet, as have their neighbors, the abutters on this side, thereby leaving an access for deer and wildlife and not blocking or creating an impasse. So I thought that was a nice point. The patio that we're proposing is a dry laid random field stone, on stone dust. And then we have also a drainage plan. We've got catch basins. This perimeter retaining wall, by the way, is required in order to level back and create a terraced area for the pool. The pool is only 15 by 35 square feet. Very, very small patio area. And, dry laid, as I mentioned, we've got a Coltec recharger that we are proposing and a curtain drain between the house and all the proposed work. So we're proposing to capture and mitigate any runoff. that would be pursuant to the proposed work. Also, with the smaller pool size, we are not going to be as deep, 6.5 feet, as opposed to a traditional 8 or 8.5 feet. That means less excavating, less disturbance, less environmental impact. So the pool is also located pretty much as close to the house as we can get it. So in that regard, we've done everything we can to minimize environmental impact. And we hope that the board will favorably regard our proposal for this small pool. Here is, just for good measure, this is the planting plan around the pool, and we've also thrown in, this is the mitigation planting plan, which is everything outside the wall. Thank you for your time.
Okay, let's open it up to the members of the commission. Bill, I'll start with you. Do you want to have questions and comments?
Yeah. So I understand what you're doing there. I had a few questions though regards to, there was a rain garden there that failed. And I'm just curious, was that rain garden part of some requirement from another project there? And if it was, why did it fail? I'm just trying to learn a little bit about what that was all about.
You know, my understanding, I don't know a lot about it. I know that the rain garden was engineered, and it absolutely failed. We've got the wrong species of plants in there. We've got hostas, rhododendrons, azaleas, everything that you would not want to put in a rain garden was in there. And I wish I could give you more information on what the purpose of that was, what it was doing there. But the other thing to consider also, and you know, we know now anyway, that a rain garden doesn't really work well in a low-lying area or in a wetlands themselves. They would want to be located further upland in a drier area with soils that drain well.
Okay.
So I think the intent was good. Whoever put it in was well-meaning, but as you know, a lot of this, our understanding of how these things work has increased in recent years, and better to funnel everything into the Coltech recharger, which we're proposing more uphill.
Okay. Another question too. I'm looking at the wetland line on the plans, and it seems to just dead end when it's going down to the south.
Right, this area here.
Yeah. Is it actually dead ending there? I mean, there's no more wetlands continuing on further through?
It was the extent of the flagging that had been provided at the point in time where I came, was brought into the project.
Okay.
Prior to my involvement, there was another woman, I believe, a landscape architect, who was involved with the project, and I stepped in. This was the extent of the flagging. I had discussed it with Mark Lebo from Williams.
And my recommendation is they should probably make that accurate when we're doing these things, and just leave us hanging there.
Understood.
There was also a sump pump that was active when I walked out. By the way, it was very wet there when I walked there a couple days ago. Luckily I had boots on.
Sure.
The whole area that it flagged was extremely wet, but there was a sump pump that was also pumping out, and I didn't see that on the plans either. That was pumping out into the wetland area.
Out from the side of the house?
Yep. It was closer to where that ash tree is, not way back in where the rain garden was. But again, just an item that, it's not on there. It'd be nice to people to see.
Yeah, there's a black PVC pipe. There's a black PVC pipe. I'll call it 1.25 inches. That goes out into the wetlands. So
yeah, it was blowing. It was definitely blowing out of it when I went by there the other day. So just an item that we all should think about.
That has to be handled some way, Sean, because obviously we're not going to have to put a sump pump into the wetlands is let's put it this way, not best practice.
Would the board have an aversion to us handling that into the Coltex?
And so that's up to you. Okay, I'm not an engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, so but obviously it's going to go right where the pool is. It goes right through the pool area, so it can't continue to exist with a pool there. Okay, so you'll have to deal with that somehow. Okay,
Understood.
and that's up. That's why you should think about that, or how you're going to solve that.
The other thing is, it is really, I like, the wetlands are pretty quality right up where you're gonna have your retaining wall butting right up to them.
Mhm.
And I am a little concerned that you're gonna do a lot of planning out in there. Matter of fact, you said many times more than what you're doing, and putting a fence in. And how much disruption, when you start going back into that quality wetlands, I would call it, back in there, and start planning a lot and bringing in, I assume you need some type of equipment to put in fencing. I mean, how much damage do you end up doing to a quality wetland, and how are you going to mitigate that?
Well, the fencing, in my opinion, I mean, these are pinpoint or almost laser beam type of holes that could be dug with post hole diggers by hand. You don't need any machinery back there. And due to the character of the wetland soils, the same thing applies to the plantings that we're proposing. You know, the symbols for the plantings, as you know, that I'm showing, you know, this is a tough thing when you're designing something or a landscape. We like to show the plants at about 10 years maturity, or what would be regarded technically as a young, mature plant. If I was to show these symbols, the sizes of the plants as selected from the nursery and installed, it would look a lot less robust. Now, if I was to show these things at 15 or 20 years growth, I would have to show a lot fewer of them. So the hope is that you hit a sweet spot in the middle, and that everything grows in together. The more successful plants will overcome or overtake ones that don't do as well, which is why you don't see a monoculture here. And what we're going to try to do is you know, provide various different types of plants that all thrive in the wetlands. Some will do better, some will not. So these spaces, these circles don't represent the holes that are going to be dug. The holes that are being going to be dug are much, much smaller, much more shallow. And so I would argue that probably the most disturbance would be the tighter placed perennials underneath the Amelanchier trees. And these would be the blue flag irises, because you're disturbing a wider area, but it is more extensive as opposed to intensive. It's a wider area, but not a deeper area. So I agree with you. There is some disturbance in there, but this is foot traffic, people digging with hand implements, and the same thing for the fence. You know, as we pass through the wetlands, you know, a fence can be installed with a post hole digger, no problem.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Eric, I'm finished.
Okay, Michael Urban? Anything? Michael, okay.
I do. I mean, I guess I could be comfortable with this knowing that the pool is greater than 100 feet from the brook. My observation is that the planting plan is around the pool, and understanding that there could be more detriment to the upland review area by keeping a lawn and fertilizing it, and then that running off into the pond, or excuse me, into the brook. But I guess I'm looking for some mitigation along the bank of the brook, understanding that we would potentially be approving an application to build a pool in the wetland. That's my comment.
Okay. So you're looking for mitigation plantings in this area here.
That's correct.
Okay, we can add those.
Okay.
I mean, just as a note to the commission, I wasn't on the commission many years ago with Peter Hillman. I don't know if this commission has approved a pool where it's so deep into the wetlands, but then I revert back to my comment about that the brook is materially farther away from the pond, or excuse me, to the pool is materially farther away from the brook, and that any plantings would mitigate any runoff of the lawn area into the brook and would improve the quality of the wetland.
That makes sense.
Gunnar?
I don't really have any comments. I think everybody's pretty much covered most of the questions so far, so I don't really have any other comments or questions.
Susan?
My questions have been answered. Thanks, Eric.
Okay, Susan. Jim?
My only comment is more to thank Bill Wright from our last meeting and this to kind of focus the camera on the adjacency to the various wetlands. And I think all questions like Susan just described, Gunnar, I think as well, to answers that I find acceptable. So that is the extent of my comment, but I just want to thank Bill on the record and Michael for his ever-present sensitivity to getting everything correct.
Okay. I have a few questions. Material storage, you're gonna have, obviously to dig out the pool, you're gonna need some heavy duty equipment. And I know Wagner Pools has, but could you, is that gonna come through the front? Is that gonna go through the back? What's your plan?
A good question. So this is the existing driveway here.
Correct.
Let me back out a little bit. So the road is up here. They're going to come up the driveway. And over here, you have what is actually kind of a nice feature. It's actually what we've all seen before is what we call turf pavers. It's like a honeycomb matrix that has cells with turf growing in them. And you'll see that, it's one of those sustainable sort of things. An attempt was made. So it says stone pavers here. It's actually stone pavers with grass between them, but it's not really pavers. It's that system. So because this gives us a head start, if you will, into the lawn area, we're proposing to use this as the construction entrance where we can stage some materials over here at the lower part, but drive in and get a head start and get our soil stockpile as close as we have to this area so that theoretically speaking, our dump truck can drive up here, back in, and then the loader can come and bring things this short span, from the soil stockpile, whatever we don't use, to the waiting truck. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as there are 3 items, Rich, that I got outstanding here. One was to complete the wetlands delineation. Okay, because we obviously need it for the town maps because of adjacent properties and things. The solving the sump, address the sump issue, whatever it is. Okay, I don't know how he's going to solve it, but he's going to solve it. And the mitigation planning in the brook. Okay. The wetlands delineation, I think, that could be handled by staff, right? And the mitigation planning in the brook can be handled by, whatever. Yeah, well, we could see that, yeah. Yeah, we can see that next meeting, but solving the sump pump and things like that is it.
You want to hear what that is?
Yeah, I want to hear what that is. So, quite frankly, so in my mind, it's a quick thing for the public here. We continue this,
Yeah.
and we continue this till next meeting, and then those will be the outstanding issues. Sean, is that okay?
Yes.
You got that? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I
Oh, yeah.
apologize if this is repetitive. Was it specified how the stockpile and the anti-tracking pad were going to be protected from the brook, e.g. wattles, silt fencing, hay bales, etc.?
He didn't mention hay bales and Sean, please.
You want the hay bales? So the
Yes,
brook
please.
it's 150 feet away. We're happy to put hay bales in if you think it's necessary. I mean, we can do a double silt fence, hay bales, go to the whole 9 yards. Whatever you guys think.
Well, honestly, my thought process is some demarcation so the truck finds its way to the pad and the excavators sit where they're supposed to, and not use the open space adjacent to the brook. This wouldn't be the first time there was an application where excavation equipment went places where it wasn't supposed to be. And then more specific, we've seen examples where the excavation equipment just drove over all the sedimentation items. So that's my 2 cents.
So normally we would, suggest a construction fence, but because of the wetlands and the brook, like you said, why not, if we're gonna go through the trouble, install a silt fence there as well to demarcate the construction area, the staging area, and to ensure that nobody passes through it. Keep everything contained, so that in the off chance we have a driver or a subcontractor who comes in and doesn't fully understand the situation, they're pretty much forced to stay in that area.
Mhm. Okay, so maybe that makes that another thing to put in there. Okay, I'd like you to open up. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak? Anybody? Okay, we'll see you January 6th, Sean.
Thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello? Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Sorry, this is Susan Hearn. Maybe I dialed into the wrong meeting, or maybe I missed it. I was calling in to see, I thought there was a meeting about the construction on 16 Oxridge Lane.
That's next. We're going to start that immediately.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Appropriately, the next item of business is EPC 29-2020 VB. Oh man, forgive me. Ijaliki at 16 Oxridge Lane, proposing grading activity related to a replacement house within an upland review area. This site is shown on Assessor's Map number 7 as lot number 22. Please forgive me for my pronunciation of your last name. Okay, is someone here to represent the applicant?
I am Eric. This is
Hey,
Doug
Doug.
DeVesta, representing the applicant. Let's get everything up here. Okay. Okay, good evening. My name is Doug DeVesta, professional engineer, represent the applicant. The project, as Eric mentioned, is at 16 Oxridge Lane on the corner, on the south and east corner of Blueberry Lane and Ox Ridge. The property is approximately 1.5 acres, located in the R2 zone. The property slopes from the east towards the west, towards Blueberry Lane. There was an existing house located in the central portion of the property, and there's a stable on the southern portion of the property where my cursor is right now. We are looking to remove the existing house, which has already been gone if you pop it out there, and then construct a new residence in the same general location of the property. The property was checked for wetlands in 2018 for the previous owners by Steve Dander, who's on this meeting as well. There was some confusion about the property lines, and so wetlands were not marked on the southeast portion of the property. Since our last meeting, we had Steve go back out there and check for wetlands. We found wetlands. He found wetlands along the southeast corner of the property and along a ditch that was dug along the easterly property lines. And Steve will go into that a little more details of his findings of this, and also address Darren Osterfein's questions regarding the depth to modeling and wetlands, soils, and things like that. So Steve will go into a little more detail about that. And Steve will also discuss a little bit about if you've been out the site on the southern property line where my cursor is, there is a stand of bamboo in this area. He'll have to talk about potential proposal for removing of these bamboos in this location because they're kind of invasive and they could be migrating into the property and towards the septic system. Once the site was rechecked for wetlands, we revised the septic design. We looked at it, the septic design went about another 30 feet to the south or to the east. We were able to shorten it up to about 96 feet, 100 feet versus 120 feet, by basically using a different leaching product. So that's what, so this design here is relative to, has been revised since the original application was submitted. This plan was reviewed by the Health Department and been approved. We got an approval letter from them today. The property we accessed through two existing curb cuts in the road. There's one on Blueberry Lane that will serve the front courtyard. Ox Ridge Lane to service the front courtyard, and the entrance on Blueberry Lane will service the garage areas. We dug a series of test holes on the property looking for the best location for the septic system. Originally, we had thought the septic system would go in the southwest corner. We found that was really not suitable for septic. That was more conducive for drainage. Also, that's the low spot of the property, so we can drain everything by gravity to that point for the drainage. The septic system would be located on the southern portion of the property. We found suitable soils there and designed a septic system that was approved by the Health Department that we just mentioned. There is a ditch swale along the easterly property line that I believe was dug prior to my clients owning the property, but he had cleaned it out since then. And what we're proposing to do is to fill it and make it a less deep swale, make it like 6 inches deep. Also, there's a piece of it that, get up here. There's a piece of it that touches the property line. We're proposing about to section from where my cursor is, about 95 feet, to straighten that out, get it further away from the property line, keep it a shallow swale, about 6 inches deep. Plant this area with a New England wet metal mix, and then put a jute mesh over for erosion control until the grasses and the plants take in that area. So again, that's something that we're proposing to straighten out this swale and make it much shallower than what it is right now, but keep it in there and mitigate it back up to a more viable wetlands than what's out there right now. Let's see. So again, we're looking at putting a new house in the general location of the existing, a new pool, a new septic system, and a stormwater management system. Stormwater was checked for the 2 through 100, or 2, 10, 25, and 50-year design storms, and we show a 0 increase in runoff in the general location where I'm showing on the south, north, and west portion of the property. For erosion control, we're looking at silk fence down gradient of any cut areas and along the edge of the wetlands along the south property and along the existing ditch on the easterly portion of the property. Stockpile area would be on the north and east portion of the property. There will be a new well being drilled for the property as well. Any tracking pads on each of the existing or proposed driveways coming into the property. With regards to Darren's comments dated 10/7 and 11/19, most of these were just statements and some comments in there. A few of the items that we would address by notes in the plan is that any work within the town right away will require a road opening permit. These two curb cuts are basically already existing, so really don't need a curb cut in there, but any work utility-wise would come onto the property would have to get a permit from DPW. Dr. Danzer will address the comments about the modeling that Darren mentioned in his comments with regards to their test holes that we dug on the property. And then in terms of a basement, We've had many discussions with my client and the architect on this. He wanted to do a full basement, and I strongly urged him not to because of the high groundwater level. So most of the house will be crawl space, except for a small, about 800 square feet of a basement in this general area in the house itself next to the garage there. The rest will be about a 5-foot crawl space or a little less to provide areas to get to the mechanicals to service the house. In terms of the sump pump from that area there will be discharged into our drainage system. Based on our soil testing, we had test hole here number 4. We had groundwater, actual groundwater at 72 inches, modeling at 12 inches. You got to remember, modeling is a seasonal high groundwater indicator. It may not happen every year. It may not happen. It may be historical. We do have a monitoring well in that area, so we can monitor the groundwater in this area. We also have monitoring wells in the drainage area in here, and we have a couple of monitoring wells up in the septic area. The state health code allows us to monitor groundwater from February 1st through May 31st, determine if the groundwater level does reach that modeling layer. If it doesn't, we can utilize that data based on the results we get from that 3 months period there. We take the 5 highest readings in the month or that time frame, and then we average that out, and that's the number we would use for design the septic system. And then also it could be done for the drainage area as well. So we'll be monitoring that. So again, getting back to the full basement area here, we had groundwater at 6 feet. The existing grade is between 151 and 152. So the basement level, we're having at 145. So we're right at that groundwater level, the actual groundwater that we had indicated in our test holes there. So we're right at that level. If you wanted to go down deeper, but we totally discouraged that, myself and the architect, to keep this house as high as possible, keep it up out of the groundwater. And then again, majority of this house here will be on a crawl space. That's pretty much really what we're proposing out there. I'd like to have Steve Danger discuss a little bit about the wetlands on the property and to address Darren's comment. Steve, you'd like to?
Good evening to the commission. First of all, can everybody hear me? Someone could wave to me that you can hear me. Thank you. For the record, my name is Steve Danzer. I'm a soil scientist, wetland scientist with home office in Stamford, Connecticut. As Doug mentioned, my involvement was not with this current iteration of the project until about 7, 8, 9 days ago. Really, I had worked actually for not even for the prior owner. I had actually gotten a call from the real estate agent back in 2018, and I went out there in, I think, June in 2018. At the time, I was not given a survey. There was no survey that was available that we knew about. So I went out there with my own version of a plot plan, which is always hit or miss. When I was out there, I identified what I thought I saw what we are now calling the ditch or the swale. I was not sure at the time whether there was an intermittent water course, but I was a little bit confused about the property boundaries, and I figured it was off-site. And I even mentioned it in my report. I disclosed that it was there, but I thought it was off-site. However, I also disclosed in the same report that I was kind of confused about the property boundaries. That kind of came back to haunt me. That doesn't happen often, but it happened in this one. So now we have a survey, and there was a question about where the wetlands are. And with the benefit of the survey, I went back out there, and lo and behold, the swale was on the property, on our property, the site now. So I went out there and determined it barely met the criteria of an intermittent water course. Really what it is an excavated drainage swale that was put there quite a few years ago to facilitate drainage from the interior of the site. Because it was excavated down, it intercepted essentially the soil features. They are now indicative of a wetland, so therefore it would technically qualify as a wetland. It doesn't really, I guess it would also qualify as an intermittent water course because under the definition, does not differentiate between man-made and natural. And just because it was man-made does not mean that it does not qualify as a wetland area in this case. So for those reasons, and because everyone was concerned, I flagged that. And while I was out there, I also identified another area to the, let me get my directions correctly, or southeast, kind of to the southwest, yes, where Doug has his little marker there, which was always wetland. I don't even recollect when I was out there in 2018 what that area looked like, except for a big mass of bamboo. I don't remember if I went out there and tested it, or most likely I probably figured it was off-site because it seemed to be in the direction of the neighboring property. But in any case, I went out there and it is wetland, and because of that, I flagged it as so. So that's the story behind the wetlands. I guess the next question is the question about I was asked to respond to the engineering staff's comments about the groundwater, the test holes, and the fact that they found groundwater scattered throughout the site, and why there aren't wetlands, why I did not believe, at least initially, that there was wetlands in other areas of the site. I have a couple of responses to that, and I put them in a memo dated November 22nd, titled Supplemental Report and Comments. But basically what it boils down to is a couple of things. First of all, I was out there in June in 2018. It was a very dry year and a very dry season. And as a result, even though I sampled throughout the site, I didn't encounter groundwater anywhere. So that's just luck of the draw. When you do wetland delineation, it's kind of very time season dependent, and you know, it happened to be a dry time of year and a dry season, and as a result, like I said, there was no groundwater encountered. As far as seeing modeling at a depth that was closer to the soil surface, often when you do septic testing, what you're concerned about is modeling. You're basically, that's what you're looking for. But when you do wetland delineation, you're concerned about other factors besides from the modeling, such as what we call the background or the matrix soil. And in not all of the areas where I saw modeling, the background soil was not, to put into lay person's terms, simplify it a little bit, the background soil is not gray enough for that modeling to qualify as a wetland indicator. And so because of that, just because I saw modeling, a couple inches down from the top of the soil surface, it did not qualify as a wetland. It's a little bit different. We just, the soil scientists for wetland delineation, we look at it a little bit differently than the people that do test holes for drainage and test holes for septic. And finally, the other thing that should be noted, which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who was out at the site, maybe it's a little bit more difficult now because the site's been so disturbed, but that site has a long history of filling. They filled to put the paddock in, they filled to the area in front of the yard. And when I did my soil sampling, I just did not find a pattern consistent enough to mark wetlands out in any other parts. I'm not saying that if you dug down that you might find the odd hole that might qualify as a wetland test hole, but the key is one hole does not make a wetland. You need to find a pattern. And at least back in 2018 in June, I just could not find a pattern really to lead me to believe at the time to mark out wetlands anywhere else out on the site. So again, now with the advent of the engineering, they have the ability to sink test holes wherever they want. They didn't have to go by hand. They could go below areas that now that were previously either impervious or semi-pervious. I did not have that option. I could only essentially dig at the time where the soils were soft in the forest. So anyway, that's my answer to the town engineering comments. And the third thing is I was asked just because, well, I don't know why, but I guess it's just assumed because I'm a wetland scientist, I must know something about bamboo, but it happens to be that I actually do know a little bit about bamboo. I have been involved in bamboo removal projects in wetlands and out of wetlands. So I put together a quick sketch of, or rather an outline of how I would propose a bamboo removal. And I put that at the end of my report. As we all know, that type of bamboo is kind of nasty. It's aggressive, it spreads. there's state laws that right now that kind of govern the spreading of it. And as so, it was acknowledged by the new owner of the property, the developer, that we need to get rid of the bamboo. And as such, I kind of proposed a methodology to do it. Essentially, it's a combination of treating it with herbicides, physical removal of the bamboo, and lots of monitoring, and the ability to go back out there and treat any regrowth over a couple of years, because typically that's what happens when you pull it out. It's not perfect. In the ideal situation, you excavate down a couple of feet to excavate the rhizomes, because this is in the wetland area. That, in my opinion, that would cause more disturbance than it would be worth. So I think it'd be sufficient in this case to just kind of cut the bamboo at surface, use whatever herbicide licensed pesticide applicator is familiar with bamboo removal might specify, and just keep going for a year or two or three until you just exhaust the supply of bamboo. That's it. I'm here for any questions, comments.
Members of the commission, anything? Thank you,
What's
Stephen.
that?
I thought it was a good report. Any members of the commission have any questions?
Yeah, I
for
do.
Steve? Please.
Yep. So I'm a little concerned about the development process on this. At the last meeting, I asked about why was the excavation done ahead of time before we even had a chance on our commission to talk about wetlands. The answer was there's no wetlands there. And I'm going like, now we got the DPW says, well, if you look at the wetlands map, and I did, it's totally covered in wetlands, at least it's notified that way. So somebody didn't do their homework and they look at that. Going out there without a survey, I mean, that's just poor form. And so because of all that, they go ahead and excavate, and we're kind of looking at, all right, now they pushed the dirt, not in that one spoil area, they pushed it over into that swale area. And, you know, we're behind the 8 ball on this. I just don't think this is, you know, they're doing this tactically correct at all. That's all I've got. And by the way, that place is a lake right now, and it's more than 5 feet deep. Not the water, but the excavation work. All right, I'm done. Next.
Doug?
I'm sorry, who was that? I missed your name.
It was Bill Wright.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, we agree. You know, the client did jump the gun on it. You know, he admits that he jumped the gun on it because we had submitted everything, and he felt that he was, you know, he can dig a hole out there, and he did. But he knows he shouldn't have done it until he got all his permits, even if it was no wetlands on the site relative to what the report said. The town wetlands maps are very general. They are based on soil type, not on individual sites. So again, that could be general location on those maps itself. Relative to the excavation, yes, he originally wanted a much deeper and bigger basement. When he was digging this foundation, he went beyond that, and we've reined him in to provide a much smaller basement. That area that is excavated, that's over excavated, he's going to now have to fill that in and use a structural material, compact it so that he can have a crawl space in that area there. So yes, my client had jumped the gun on this thing, and you know, we're back before your commission to rectify these issues and get this thing get it going in the right direction now.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Mr. Dancer?
Eric, yes, I do. It's Gunnar Edelstein. Yeah, I totally agree with Bill. When I first went out there last month and I looked at where the excavation had taken place, I'm thinking this is like deep enough and big enough to put in a new World Trade Center. Like, so why are we even talking about it at this point? it seems like the applicant is pretty egregiously and flagrantly pushing the rules and basically doing this shoot first and ask questions later, and with really little or no regard for the rules, the wetlands, any of that sort of stuff. So I'm definitely very concerned about this whole thing. I don't know what you do about it at this point, but I share Bill's concern that they put the cart way ahead of the horse here.
So I got a question, Doug. When
Yes.
did you join this process?
When did I start this process? Probably in September, August.
So the hole was dug.
The hole was not dug at that time. I was out there doing test holes before any of the excavation was done for the foundation. Foundation was probably dug in probably end of September, maybe. My client.
Excuse me, guys.
Yeah.
Can I come in?
This is Bebby, the owner of the property.
Bebby Juliki. Hello, everybody.
Go
The
ahead.
reason I
Go.
dug the reason I dug the hole, I didn't dug the hole before I have approval from health department. That's the reason. We went through with all the wetlands before we bought the land. Everybody, we went to the town and said, it's no wetland. We have that approval letter, and Rich told us, no problem, you can buy the land. We bought the land. We go and process with the permit, with the plans, with Doug, with engineering. We got health department approval. And then after I got the health department approval, I'll wait a week. And then I said, okay, maybe the planning and zoning is going to be approved. I'm a builder in town, and kind of I know how long it's going to take to approve planning and zoning. And then after I wait 10 days, I said, you know what, this weekend I'm going to start digging the hole because it's getting close. And that's what happened. After I have a health department approved, that's why I start digging, because I need, after all this corona thing, everything else, everybody sitting there, said, let's move faster. That's the only reason I did the whole docs, and then 10 days after I got this, we have to come to special permit. That's the reason I did that. And then I stopped everything. Now it's stopped. It's a big pile over there. I stopped waiting for you guys.
Okay, because Rich, you understand the process better than I do.
I think you misunderstood the process. We don't sign off until we're sure there's no activities within within the upland review area, which clearly were even before the reevaluated. That's not our process.
Okay, that's not a process. So the applicant dumped the gun, is what you're saying.
Now you need to get back into.
Okay. All right. So I think.
We weren't working out of the office. We were working from home.
No, I understand that. No, I understand that. So
we were
okay.
having meetings. We were having a normal process meeting.
Okay. Well, I guess we are where we are, and so we are where we are. But now I think people are a little bit more aware of the process. We're back to a modus operandi in town hall, and I think this is considered very unfortunate that there was, I'll call it a misunderstanding to be generous. So anyway, we are where we are at this point in time. And so now we have the wetlands. We sit there and say, okay, what are we going to do to protect the wetlands? Doug, because you're building all over the site, okay, you didn't know they were there. So now we know due to Mr. Danzer's work that very clearly they're there.
Wetlands are a little bigger. We knew there were wetlands on the adjacent property.
We knew there were wetlands there. Well,
there was always an upland review.
And so what are we going to, where's the fence going, bales of hay, etc.
Right. We've got, well, when I originally designed the septic system, it's in the same location as I had it before. I actually moved the system back. I moved the septic back about 5 feet, but the grading that I had proposed was still, wasn't past this one test hole. I think number 12, I think it is right here. Yeah, number 12. It wasn't really past that area. So we really did not show any grading in this area. So again, I pushed everything back as far as I can relative to the septic and to every other setback I had to worry about. So again, there's no grading going into the wetlands area, but we do have our silt fence along the toe of the slope in this area in here and along this swale. Obviously, we'll have to do some work in this wetlands area to take that ditch that was excavated out and make it much more shallower and mitigate that area to make it a more viable type of wetlands. And the area that this larger wetlands in the southeast corner here is natural and will stay in its natural state here, and except for, I guess, for some of the bamboo that that Steve was mentioning, that we want to remove it out of this area because that's an invasive material within that wetlands area. So again, any silt fence along the edge of the wetlands will protect that area. Again, it's a fairly flat area, and really there's not much, really won't be that much runoff going in that area. And also we're proposing a construction fence on the north side of the proposed septic area to keep any construction equipment off that septic area to preserve it as much as possible before they start doing any work on that septic area. Again, silt fence along the border of the wetlands itself.
Okay, Rich, the applicant has said that he's a builder in town, and obviously his interest is in building and then selling the house. How can I guarantee that, because I think Mr. Danzer's plan of getting rid of bamboo and restoring the wetland, et cetera, is a good one. How can I guarantee that the next purchase of the property will?
Oh, we've had it. It's not a common. The condition runs with the land. So every once a year there'll be somebody like Mr. Danzer or whoever they use to actually do the remediation. Might also be possible.
But how is the future purchaser going to know that?
Well, they're given the conditions of we can remind them.
Okay, no, because I just worry that I'm sure the applicant will do his best because he doesn't get his CO without it. But
well, the CO comes first.
Well,
we can go out. I have sites that
you monitor.
Reminders to go out, and to be honest, most of these folks remembering themselves, but we noted on a calendar.
But this guy might just not know. He buys the property without knowing it. We've had those in the past where
it happened.
So
they get the permit. Yeah, they don't.
Okay. So, should we have some plantings on the around the wetlands to indicate that it's a wetland?
Do a rotation. I don't know if it's necessary.
Okay.
So slope.
Okay, then maybe Doug, as you're the lead for the applicant, if you could come up with some ideas that'll be approved by you, Rich.
Yeah.
Okay, then demarcations, plantings. I'll leave that up, Rich, to an appropriate one there. Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
from the commissioners? Michael?
Eric, this is Michael. Yeah. I apologize if this is repetitive. So one, based testimony, I would suggest we double up on the silt fencing, hay bales, construction fencing, so there's no future confusion as to where the wetlands are and the work that should not be completed within that area. So that's one. Two is, should there be a performance bond in place as it relates to the history on this? It's very common that applicants submit performance bonds for germane work, and I think this would be a great example as to why we use performance bonds. And thirdly, again, based on the history of the construction without following the approvals and common knowledge that, and I apologize if this is repetitive, but any damage that's currently in place all be remediated and returned back to the original condition to the satisfaction of the commission. You know, I don't want to say to the extreme before any future construction continues, but, you know, full stop, fix the problem, and then continue on with the rest of your construction. That would be reasonable. You know, not suggesting it be punitive, but certainly addressed immediately and to the satisfaction of the commission. And that should be the builder's foremost priority. Those are all my comments.
Can I ask a question there, Michael? What damage
Yeah,
are you referring to?
Well, we're talking about the filling of the swale.
That swale was there priyer to our client buying the property. So, but we're requesting.
I apologize. Was the swale filled?
No.
The swale was built prior to our client buying the property. We are proposing in this application to take the swale, and right now it's probably a foot and a half deep, make it only like 6 inches deep, and mitigate that area with a New England wet mix on that area. So we are mitigating that area again, which we want to make it a much more shallower swale and more of a feature than it is just a rough dug ditch out there. So that's what we're proposing on this property. The swale was not dug by my client, no.
Oh, are you okay, Michael?
No, I understand.
I had one other question. Why is the stable still there? Everything else was torn down. And I noticed that now it's become a graffiti, a little spray paint graffiti area. Why is that still standing there since everything else was taken away?
Debbie, are you still on the line? You want to address that?
Yes, just a storage, nothing else for now.
Okay. Thank you.
Because it's no power over there, nothing. I mean, it just was trying to keep a storage.
Okay, I'd like to open up to members of the public. Is there someone, well, there was somebody who wanted to have some questions or comments?
Yeah, I just have a comment for the gentleman that.
Excuse me.
He made.
Kindly identify yourself.
He made the analogy to the World Trade Center. My
Hello,
wife was
sir.
in the World Trade Center, and I don't know what you're thinking when you did that.
Well, hey, sir. Please identify yourself and please identify your name and address.
I'm the general public. I am the general public. That's who I am.
No, you're not. You are a person, and you have a name and address, and the protocol in this in these meetings. Not tonight. This is a public meeting, and typically you have to identify yourself with name and number, and with name and address for this, so that you can be identified. And this is a public meeting.
No, I'm gonna hide out like he did.
Hide out like who did? Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution. Is there anybody else there?
Hi, yes, I just to identify myself, Susan Hearns. I live across the street on 6 Blueberry Lane. I have no questions. I was just, as a resident, I was just curious. I just wanted to listen in, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is this going to go to public hearing in P&Z?
No.
No. Okay, it's all within their rooms. Okay, is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak? No. Okay. At that point, Rich. Okay. I think we'll close the public hearing on this one. Jim Millard, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, I think I would like to propose we close the public hearing for EPC 29-2020 as discussed.
Okay, thank you. Susan, may I have a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you very much. Without objection, so moved. Okay, then we'll move on to the agent approvals.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Have a good holiday.
Yes, thank you. You too, Doug.
Thank you.
Agent approvals, no action is necessary unless the commission receives an appeal of the approval within 15 days of the publication date per section 12.2 of the Inland Wetlands and Water Course Regulations. EPC 30-2020, Bob and Diane Weeks, 43 Stony Brook Road, proposing pool and patio construction in an upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 19 as lot number 29.
Eric, for the record, it's 53 Stony Brook Road.
Oh, 53, excuse me. Thank you.
Yep.
No, that's wrong. I said it wrong. Called dyslexia. Does any members of the commission have questions or comments for Rich? Please.
I don't want to be the only one talking. Anybody else have comments before I talk? No? Okay. All right. So I'd like, it's a beautiful stream back there, and they do have a nice buffer between their yard and the stream. My concern would be, could they move that pool further away from Stony Brook, closer to the house? I see there is a well right off there, and I don't know if that whole area is on well water or municipal water, and that's just an extra well or not. I don't know the answer to that. But they could move it further toward the house, get it further away from the stream if they just went a little bit south and missed that well, if that well is municipal water. So I don't know if that's something we could talk about. And then the other item is there's a spa equipment on the opposite side of the house, and that's basically right in the wetland zone there too. And it would be nice during this whole project, they move that out of the wetland zone into a non-wetland zone area.
Existing?
The spa equipment.
That's what I said. Yes.
Existing on the other side of the house?
Yes.
Yeah, the spa equipment is on the opposite side of where the pool is. It's on their plan, it's very hard to see, but if you walk out there, it's very obvious where it is. And then when you look closely at the plan, you'll see it's within the wetland zone, or at least right in the 50-foot zone. And it is a nice area over there, and it's basically a very ugly looking piece of equipment they should probably do something with and move it out of that zone if they end up doing this pool. So I bring that up as possibility to move that pool further away from the stream, closer to the house. I'm not sure about the well, but they could still move it south.
It was the well. It was.
What's that?
They found there were a couple of locations. Originally, they wanted it on the other side of the house.
Yeah, and there's ledge there, obviously. You can see all that. Yeah, you can see all the ledge.
Right.
But not, if you just go a little bit south, you go a little bit south of where they've got it planned, and then you can bring it closer to the house. You won't be within that radius of the well.
Okay, we'll look at it.
Okay, so let's keep this one open. Rich, I understand there's agent approval, but I think Bill raises a good point, and maybe we want to.
Yeah, my criteria is there going to be an impact? I mean, I can ask them, but I'm not sure how that creates less impact. But I can look at it.
Well, isn't our whole effort is to try to get further away from these streams, right? Isn't that the kick, to try to get further away? And just because they don't want it closer to their house, we're trying to protect that stream.
Correct. And whether or not there's an impact, from an existing lawn area or swimming pool, I don't see a difference. I can have them.
Okay. Which I'm looking at it too.
Okay, thanks.
I think they searched around for a location, and I think that was dealing with the landscape architects. We're dealing with ledge and the well and so forth. And I think they would have tried. People try to process.
Okay. But it is far from that ledge marked on the map. It's far from that. So I don't know. Your call.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing you can ask them to do, and I think, Bill's right, is
Move the spot.
move the spot. Move this,
It's not
move the
the- it's
spot
a-
because they may have been grandfathered in there for all I know. But can they, because, nowadays, lots of pools are made with, spas and stuff like that. And so maybe it makes sense if they're going to construct a pool to incorporate that in the overall design. It would look nicer, probably get more use, et cetera, right?
Yeah,
Would
it's
you agree
not the
with that?
spa itself. It's the spa equipment, which is far away from the spa. It's the equipment.
Okay.
Can I make this is Mike, can I make a general comment here? A former commissioner reminded me that if and Rich, I guess Rich, you're rubbing off on me too, if the remediation and improvement of the wetlands is greater than the encroachment, then we as commissioners would lean in that direction, right? So increased plantings, improvement of the wetland, we want that, right?
Correct. I'm not sure you're talking about the like general, like the one we heard earlier, or like Mystic Lane. You're receiving an increased benefit, several times greater than the area you're being asked to give up. Is that the question?
Yes.
That is a philosophy that you can mitigate areas if you're losing areas or disturbing areas that are never going to be reclaimed.
You got to get something for it.
You still get something, and you get a ratio that's much greater than
Yeah.
And each case is different.
Yeah.
There are some, and I mentioned to Eric earlier, there are some I tell people don't even ask, which is why you don't see them. Preliminary discussion, they don't get to you, and if they did, I'd have no trouble saying, I recommended they not apply, and you can deny those.
Yep. No, when they come. Okay, looking at the next one, so you'll get back to us on that one, Rich? Okay. EPC 31-2020, Peter and Kelly Frank, 45 Graniston Lane, proposing a house addition and patio within an upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 50 and is lot number 25. What's the story there, Rich?
Well, it's again, it's house addition patio, provided drainage, within 100 feet of walls. Oh, I'm sorry. That one of the brook.
Yep.
In my estimation, minimal impact, minimal to no impact.
Any questions or comments? Bill? Oh, man.
Anybody else first?
What mosquito got to you today?
Well, I went and checked all these places out, I'm trying to do my job. All right. So I agree with Rich, except on one item. It's all grass on quite a steep slope going down from the house right down to Goodwise River. And they should have some kind of vegetation buffer zone, because that grass goes right into the river, to separate that zone. So the fertilizer coming down, the excess fertilizer coming down will get into that little area and stop before it goes in the river. And it's a big section of it. And, they mow that baby right down to the river. And so they're going to put that piece up there. They put in 3 or 4 beautiful trees just recently, but that whole section on the left side of the trees is wide open grass going right in, nothing. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll add a vegetated buffer as a condition.
Okay. And one other item.
I assume the commission is okay with that, but yeah, we can throw that in. I think that's a good point.
And one other item. This is not exactly on this property. It's not this property, but when you look when you're looking down at the river and you look to the northern property, number 33, this is like an enforcement issue, unfortunately. There is a huge stockpile of leaves they put right on the riverbank, which we know the next flood that's going down into Gorms Pond, and friends of Gorms Pond will not be happy. So someone ought to knock on their door and say, you can't stuff all your leaves right on the bank, wait for the next storm to take them away.
Rich? Rich has got it. He'll check it out.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Okay,
That's it.
So when you get stuff like that, Bill, don't, please, Rich has a telephone. Please get right to him. Okay, when you get those kinds of issues, so that it doesn't become, and Rich has legal right to walk and do that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. Other business, discussion of stormwater management systems and residential properties. Postpone that. Minutes of November 4, 2020. Okay, everybody had a chance to go through the minutes? I have one. Page 3. This is a delicate one. Page 3, second paragraph, first. So, given our diverse times, how people call themselves. You see it?
Say it again.
Page 3 on the minutes.
Yeah.
Draft minutes, EPC minutes. Second paragraph down. It says MS Millard.
Oh.
I missed that.
Funny.
Since you didn't catch it, Jim, I asked Rich before. I said, should I be delicate about how I handle this? How does he want to refer to him? I have to ask you how you would like to refer to yourself. So that's the university way of, please let me know if it's they and theirs.
To my grandchildren, I tell them they can call me anything they want.
Well, we'll add another one here. So, okay, there's other typos and stuff too, right? Okay. So we're okay. Jim, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 4? The minutes of November 4.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve our minutes from our meeting of November 4, 2020 as revised.
Right, Susan, may I have a second?
I second the motion.
Without objection, approved. I guess next one is, there's any other business?
Do you want to discuss the public hearing?
Oh, the public hearing for Oxford Lane.
I mean, I have
Yeah.
a number of
Why don't you
potential conditions.
why don't you read those potential conditions for everybody?
Well, Michael mentioned filling, they could remediate the swale right away. But again, the idea of a bond, we typically don't take bonds. We haven't, I mean, unless they're getting into where they can't plant before growing season. We've always found that holding up, a CO is much more effective of getting work. I know a lot of towns take bonds. I know there are towns that end up with bonds that are just forfeit.
Yep.
And
They skip the work.
yeah, they have millions of dollars in bonds that are just sitting there, and it's a process to actually claim the bond and go out. The town would have to claim it up.
Mm-hmm.
So we've never had a case where having a CO held up hasn't been much. That's just been our policy.
Mm-hmm.
And but the planting plan. I'm sorry.
My thought process was, that's Mike. My thought process is if you've got the builder who's expediting his construction before approvals, and it's our interest to have him do his duty to protect the wetland, that we should have some carrot to incentivize them to do their job. And that's why I mentioned the performance bond, however it is utilized. And for my fellow commissioners, Greenwich, the town of Greenwich has a large surplus of performance bonds. And the reason why they have such a large surplus is because the applicants, in many cases, do what they're going to do anyways,
Right, you walk
and
away.
forego the bond as their self-inflicted fine or penalty for not following the reg or the approval. I don't know how. Yeah, that's just that. Yeah, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but
It's just an account where they can't pull those bonds unless they go out. Legally, they would have to use that money to go out and actually do the work.
So do they issue the CO, Michael?
That's what I would be wondering. Why would they?
well, see, that's my point. Is I don't know. Look, I can only speak from experience, right? I've had customers and I've had friends who live in the town of Greenwich, and they have very comprehensive projects, and they've had to post the performance bond to the Wetlands Commission, and didn't follow the letter of the application. Certainly not to my encouragement, and just said, hey, look, okay, whatever. I paid the town of Greenwich $10,000 performance bond. I did what I wanted to do, and I'm not going to get my 10 grand back. As merely anecdotal example of why there's a surplus. However, for the most part, a lot of
Michael, that's just not effective.
No,
I'd rather hold up their CO. I'd rather hold them.
Yeah.
I'd much rather hold up their CO. Yeah, because
we have a couple, a couple that have been held up, and they're, it really is an incentive because they're almost desperate to get the work done. And we don't hesitate to hold those up, and they go out and they eventually.
Yeah. So,
I'm not disagreeing, but it would be it's a two-prong approach for a builder, right? He's got to take, when we're just having an anecdotal conversation, he's got to take cash flow and now put it into a performance bond, and he needs to get his CO so he can get his approval to go sell the house. So, I'm just sharing. That's all.
Yeah.
It's an administrative pain in the neck for a small department.
Yeah.
Compared to Greenwich, for instance.
I look at it and I go, I'd much rather hold the CO than have to deal with the money and doing and undoing of, and then following up, because then Rich would have to go out and supervise and while some guy in Greenwich, and I hate to use Greenwich, and I use that in quotes, is, with Greenwich money there, you say, hey, it cost me 10 grand. Okay, I do view that as a cost of doing business, and I don't have to do any of the remediation, in which case the wetlands is poorer off, in the end.
Right. Well, also the over excavation, as Doug said, they're now going to have to spend the money to fix that, and that's up to the building department to make sure that they do that correctly, so that they don't have that full basement. So, if he was thinking he was going to get a full basement, now he's not.
He's not getting a full basement. I can tell you that.
I don't know if there's a significant cost in filling that hole early than just work in there.
Yeah, because it doesn't compact the same. Michael would know that better than anybody else, but it doesn't compact the same.
Not a wetland issue. But I can certainly have condition them to double up fences and so forth.
Yeah, so
plan. Those were my.
And I apologize, I misunderstood the swale piece. I thought it was the hole and the swale, but anyway.
That's actually an improvement, and I think I'm surprised there was a neighbor who was concerned about that ditch because it had been dug by a previous owner. And I did tell her that it could be remediated and filled in, and I guess she wasn't on the meeting, so I guess she may have spoken to her. I guess she was satisfied with that. But I think that's an improvement. I'm not sure it makes any difference to her in terms of same amount of water, but it'll restore a wetland that was previously. So that's something he's doing that's beneficial.
Yep. Okay. Jim, can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, wait a minute. Do we want to? That's what else? What else was there?
Well, I can put together
a draft,
and you can
take a look at it. Okay.
If you don't vote, you don't vote.
Okay,
Or
yeah.
you can change it, I'll send it out.
Because the bamboo thing was a big thing for me.
That
Okay.
was a positive, right?
And, you know, Dancer made a good,
That's another positive.
yeah. Anybody else have anything else on 616 Ox Ridge? Okay. What we'll do
All
then
right.
is, I guess we'll get a motion to adjourn.
Could we ask them to do more plantings? And, you know, I like how we use that. If we don't like what they do and how they do it, we always tell them, well, you know, put some more plantings over here. Do this. Can we, you know, it's a penalty of a sort, but it also is an improvement.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we asked for, yeah, a planting plan or some delineation of the wetland.
Yeah, but maybe
Okay,
more than just
I'm not-
delineation, you know, maybe a little extra than delineation type of thing.
Well, that depends on Mr. Jacobson's approval.
Well,
He can be as, he can be as, you know,
we
if he writes up on the wrong side of the bed.
We use boulders and things. Usually that's something when we don't want people to, it's a visual thing and it keeps them from encroaching with a lawn area.
Yeah.
I can look like that.
Yeah, and then maybe have some plantings, you know, maybe have some.
The area over the septic system will become a lawn, but then it has a fairly steep drop. So
Yep,
I don't,
yep.
I'll look at that, maybe boulders or something. I don't know if they need to.
Great, yeah.
An obvious drop.
And he's gonna put something around the swale too. What, English? Oh, no. What was he gonna plant around the swale?
Oh, New England wet mix.
New England wet mix, okay. Whatever that is, so, right. Anything else, Bill?
No, thanks.
Okay, great. All right, Jim, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir. The only other thing I'd like to ask prior to adjourning is, and I know we've deferred it a couple of times, Eric, and subject to your wishes, I do think we want to at least initiate the conversation that we've had on our agenda on the stormwater management system maintenance and operating plans. Because there's a part of me that feels there may come a time, I don't know that for sure, but there's a possibility that in the future, this commission could suffer from not having an enforcement mechanism or a simple calendar or other ideas. I know it was part of a conversation with Michael several meetings ago. Again, it's entirely up to your preference on scheduling as to when you want to address it. I just want to make the point while we all were together, absent Kelly, that we do talk about it at some meeting soon.
Okay, yeah, agreed. Let Rich and I talk about it and see what the alternatives are. Maybe we form a subcommittee that reports back to the committee. You know, maybe there are other alternatives we could do.
That might be the right way to do it.
Actually, a subcommittee, we always seem to get to it at the end.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we should form a subcommittee for that. Yeah, and then bring it to the full committee. Okay, because let me see. Would we have any volunteers for that committee? Mr. Irvin?
I'd be willing to volunteer on that.
Michael? You can take yourself off of mute.
Sure.
Thank you for being in the Army volunteer.
Rich,
with enthusiasm, Michael.
Okay. He joins with enthusiasm. Anybody else who would like to be a member of that subcommittee? No more than 3? All right. I'll make myself a member of that then too.
Perfect.
Just to, you know, just to have some fun.
Rich, can you grab like the most professional looking stormwater maintenance letters or calendars that the engineers have submitted to P&Z for the commission to see?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good idea.
Because I suspect what you're going to see is a very basic 2-sentence or 1-paragraph letter, and then hopefully you find a bipolar document that, or an outlier document that is actually has this like some type of, you know, template that we could piggyback off of. Like, wow, that's a really good one.
Yep.
And then I would also wonder does Jeremy, or is Fred's on? Do from the P&Z side, is there anything that comes across their desk as a white paper just for being a professional, and we could see that too.
Sure. You know, Rich can ask around. Rich can ask, you know, Fred and Jeremy and these people to, Karen Ostafan would be another good one. Just to ask around, see what they get as you know, that's what it crosses their desk. I think that's a good point.
Because I think, yeah, I'll shut up, but I think that's what we're going to form a template from. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Michael's on a good track there, because since we started this thought process, and I know in an earlier, this may go back 4 or 5 meetings, on those occasions when this commission asks for an operations and maintenance plan that is intended for the property owner, the applicant, to direct and oversee, or maybe even subcontract over a 12-month period following approval. But then to the follow-up question with, I think more so you, Rich, how do we as a town, not just our commission, but as a town, then say, okay, is somebody going out there every 90 days to make sure that the Coltex are being inspected and maintained, and the fall leaves are being pulled out so it functions as designed? And I think your answer to that was, well, we don't really do that yet. My worry for us is more around, we impose a condition to have an operating and maintenance plan, but then if it's not maintained, if we've asked that it be on the town record for that homeowner to do our job well, but then it's never really enforced. I think Michael Irvin made the point 4 or 5 months ago, you know, you're putting words on a page, they don't mean anything. And I think, I'm not trying to become a policing authority or asking Rich and your team to start becoming, you know, maintenance police, but I just want to talk it out together to say, how do we properly advise that homeowner annually? You know, we all get things from Amazon every 2 days. Hey, there's a new special deal in town. I'm just talking about a notice that might be the solution to Rich, to this commission, that says, okay, the operation maintenance of XYZ Avenue has been maintained, or has been accomplished, or something. I'm searching, you can tell I'm searching for what we're all looking for, but I want to protect this commission.
Well, it's going to
need to be several departments.
Well, that we can handle when we get the subcommittee together.
Got a number of thoughts.
You know, so what I would do is write down your thoughts, Jim, so that when we get together, we can, you know, go through this.
Will do.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to talk about this? You want to go 5 hours starting now?
No, I'll do that only if I can get a glass of wine in my hands.
I can't see what's in your cup.
Well, it's nice and clear. Here, so you can.
So I got to use one of these.
I know. I will note for the record, Michael, that you've had your screen. We can't see you on our screens, so we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, right.
Oh, there we go now.
There we go. Oh, very good, very good.
Alrighty. By the way, just one last thing here. Kelly Zitzman Kelly Zitzman has, due to, she had a death in the family and she has new business commitments that she's going to be traveling. So she has told Rich and I.
I thought she might make it tonight. She did ask me to convey her best wishes.
And so she, she thanks the committee, etc. But she has not submitted her formal letter to Jamie Stevenson yet to resign, but we suspect that'll be forthcoming momentarily. But anyway, I just want to let all the members of that know. In which case, we are now a new member will have to be not a Republican, will have to be typically a Democrat or an unaffiliated. And so, yeah, because we have five, I know we have 5 hours, which is the maximum for the commission. And Kelly herself was a Democrat. So we'll have to replace that with either a U or a D. If anybody has any suggestions or something, please give me a call. Let me know so we can follow up on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Eric, I'm with you, if that helps.
I know that. And
Okay.
the laws of minority representation in the state of Connecticut say the maximum you can have on a committee of 7 is 5 of one party, and the other 2 must come from not that party. So we have 5 R's on here, and I know you're a U, and if I could get another U or a D, with someone who's motivated to be on environment, on EPC, that would be great. So, but I figured, I'm looking for people, but if the other people, 5 of you could go out there and take a look for stuff, because you have your own personal contacts in town and things like this, that would be much appreciated.
Great.
Great. Okay, hey Jim, let's adjourn so I can get to my glass of wine.
Yes, let's.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Let's urgently make that happen. I make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting of the Environmental Protection Commission on December 2 of 2020.
Thank you, Susan.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Without objection, Michael, without objection, passed. See you guys. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.